I'm Shannon,
And I'm Holly.
and this is a Girls Gone Curious podcast where we talk about things that make us curious. So grab your favorite drink, sit back and relax because your show is loading. Today's episode includes the following trigger warnings: mentioning topics of sexual, physical, and emotional assault, death of an infant, and enslavement. This podcast is not suitable for children. Please listen with care. We apologize if we say any of the names or places wrong in today's case. This is the start of the new series. We explained it a little in our previous episode. However, if you didn't get a chance to listen to it, well, first, please go back and listen to it, and we'll catch you up. For every 2 murder mysteries episodes, we will spin a wheel in advance. On the wheel, we have multiple different categories that involve anything true crime. Categories like missing persons, woman killers, serial killers, cults, etc. We did spin the wheel, and this week's true crime episodes landed on outside the U.S. So the next 2 episodes, including this one, will be cases on any place located outside the U.S.
For this episode, we will be traveling all the way to Austria. And some of you might have already heard of this case already. This is the case of Elisabeth Fritzl. This case starts at the birth of fuckface Joseph Fritzl on April 9th, 1935 in Amstetten, Austria. For this episode, I am swearing as many times as I want because this case pissed me off. Just a fair warning.
Understood.
He was an only child to Joseph Sr. and Maria Fritzl. His father was an alcoholic, and at the age of 4, his father abandoned him. Fritzl's mom was very strict and often physically and emotionally abused him. She would often call him names and insult him. During this time, Austria was still under Nazi rule, and this would influence him dramatically. Fritzl would finish basic education and go on to attend Polytechnic School, getting certified in electrical and mechanical engineering. He would get a job at Voest Steel Company. Then from 1969 to 1971, he would work at a construction material firm called Cellar. Sometime in 1956, when he was 21 years old, he married a woman named Rosemary, who was 17 at the time. Rosemary was described as a quiet, trusting, gentle, and beautiful woman. She would be a stay-at-home mother taking care of their children that they would have together. After his job at Zettner, he would work as a traveling salesman. And then there was a rumor that at some point he did mail women's lingerie. I don't know how true that is, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
In 1973, together, Fritzl and Rosemary would buy a summer campground in the mountains. They would rent it out until 1996. After this, Fritzl would buy multiple properties and rent them out to tenants. They would settle down in Ipsden at Ypstrasse 40. Rosemary's sister, Christine, described Fritzl as a tyrant at home. Everything he said was the final word. She said, "If I myself was scared of him at a family party, then you can imagine how it must have been for Rosemary." Now, going into Fritzl's record, he had broken into a 24-year-old nurse's house in 1967. He held her at knife point, threatening to kill her if she screamed while he sexually assaulted her. He was convicted and sentenced to 18 months, but got out after 12 months. There would also be 2 more attacks, but there was never enough evidence to prove he committed them. During this time, Austria had a law that was designed to rehabilitate criminals, meaning after 15 years, the sexual assault was wiped from his record. And I don't know if this law is still active or not. Bullshit law, that's what I say.
Yeah.
In 1974 and 1982, he was investigated for arson, but there wasn't any more details other than that. He was also looked into as a possible suspect in 1986. Near the campground/inn, a woman's body was found, and she had been sexually assaulted. This woman was Martina Pusch. Fritzl was found innocent and was no longer a suspect in this case. Martina also looked very similar to Elisabeth. Her case is still open and unsolved, which is another case that we could possibly do in the future. Fritzl and Rosemarie would have 7 children together, 3 sons and 4 daughters. One of the daughters was born on April 6, 1966. Elisabeth Fritzl was described as a very withdrawn and shy kid. One girl that went to school with her said that she was never able to go over to her house to hang out. And if Elisabeth wasn't home and half an hour after school got out, she would be punished. Fritzl would slap her for very simple, small things he did not approve of or like. He would be physically abusive to the whole family. When Elisabeth was 11 years old, he would begin sexually assaulting her, which was in 1977. Can we change his name from Fritzl to Fuckface?
It's more suitable.
Yeah. At the age of 16, Elisabeth would try to run away 2 different times. In January of 1983, she ran away with her friend to Vienna. A couple of weeks later, police found her and brought her home. The beginning of Fritzl's disgusting plan would begin to take action in 1978. He would obtain official permits to begin constructing a bigger cellar. Around this time, many families had domestic nuclear or fallout shelters. So him building a bigger cellar wasn't questioned by anyone. The only problem was that he wasn't building a fallout shelter. Instead, he was building a prison to lock his daughter into. In 1984, he was almost finished building it. It had narrow hallways, a sleeping quarters, a bathroom that contained an old toilet, a sink, and a small shower, and a living area that also functioned as a kitchen dining room. Fritzl would reinforce the area with 8 doors, the last one being made of steel and metal that weighed about 661 pounds. It was also only opened by electric code lock, and he pretty much thought of everything: ventilation and electricity, with soundproof walls. Everything that was just enough to keep someone alive. He would even build a pool in the backyard to cover up why he was digging up so much dirt. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, this guy is something.
August 18th, 1984 would be the last day that Elisabeth would see the outside world for the next 24 years. At the age of 18, Fritzl would ask Elisabeth to come downstairs to help him install a door. It was too heavy for him to put it in himself. Not wanting to make her father angry, she agreed to help. She would hold the door as he fitted it into place. After finishing, Elisabeth would turn around and head back upstairs. And Fritzl took this moment to cover her face in an ether-soaked cloth until she passed out. He would then drag her unconscious body into the prison and close the door. This is just a side note. Ether and chloroform are similar, but they are not the same chemical. Ether was one of the first anesthetics used in surgery. However, it was dangerous, and it is a dangerous chemical. Chloroform is used in the product of pharmaceuticals and pesticides, while ether is now used in paints and varnishes. I know this isn't that much of an important side note, but I was curious about it, so I figured other people would be curious. I never even heard of ether.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But I also never paid attention in chemistry, so... Elisabeth would wake up in a bed with chains around her hands, connecting to an iron rod behind the bed. She had less than 1 meter of slack. As the days, weeks, and months went on, Fritzl would give her longer chains and more freedom, eventually letting her walk around with no chain. He would visit her almost every day around 9 a.m. and at minimum 3 times a week to give her supplies, whatever the fuck that meant. I'm assuming it's probably food and hopefully
soaps and things like that.
If he even gives her any.
Yeah.
Now you gotta be asking the same question I did. How did her mom and other family members not notice or know anything? In the beginning, Rosemary would worry and eventually file a missing persons report. When she went missing, Elisabeth was supposed to start a new job as a waitress. Rosemary and other family members would question and wonder what happened to her. Fritzl would say that Elisabeth must have run away and joined a cult. She ran away before, so that's probably what she did this time. And sadly, pretty much everyone would believe it. Even the police. Not knowing she's literally living beneath them. About a month after she went missing, Fritzl would force Elisabeth to write a letter claiming she did run away and that she wanted nothing to do with the family anymore. If they were to look for her, she would take off and move to a different country where they would never find her. Fritzl would turn this letter into the police, and it was also stamped with a different town stamp on it. Throughout the years, they would often talk about Elisabeth. They would ask, where can Elisabeth be? And who is she with? They searched railway stations and places where homeless would gather, but nothing came up. Any sort of lead they would get would turn into a dead end. And no one suspected Fritzl, and no one would question him. During all of this, Fritzl would maintain the concerning father figure. The first 2 days being in the cellar, Elisabeth's hands were chained to her bed. The chain was eventually moved to her waist, and after 6 to 9 months was removed completely. But not to give her more room to move, but because the chain was getting in the way of the sexual assault. Fritzl would only visit her to assault her and give her food. Later, Elisabeth would say she really contemplated committing suicide, but the hope of escaping stopped her. The conditions of the cellar were horrible. It was cold and damp. It was musty and moldy. When it would rain, water would leak down the walls, and she would have to use old towels to clean it up. At times, she had to kill rats with her bare hands when there was too many of them, or they got too courageous and went after her food. In the summertime, it would be an overheating sauna, quote unquote, intolerable sweaty sauna. There was no sunlight, no windows, just walls and artificial lights. In the beginning, there was no clock, no TV. She lost her sense of time. The only thing she had was a calendar she used as a diary. I don't know exactly when, but Fritzl did eventually get her a TV and clock. He also would give her a hot plate and a refrigerator, because that totally fucking makes it better.
Yeah, Father of the Year.
A little over a year later, in 1985, Elisabeth would get pregnant. But only 10 weeks later, in 1986, she would have a miscarriage. She would get pregnant again and have a baby girl on August 30th, 1988, that she named Kirsten. Elisabeth would have this baby in the cellar by herself. There was no nurse, no hospital, no pain medications, no help. The only thing she had was a 1960 maternity book and basic supplies Fritzl gave her. Days would pass before Fritzl would even check in on her and the baby. However, having this baby did give Elisabeth a new sense of purpose. The assault would continue. A year and a half later, she would have another baby. In February of 1990, she had a boy named Stefan. Both kids would grow up and live in the cellar with her. Again, on August 29th, 1992, she would give birth to a girl she named Lisa. But this time, it was different. After about 9 to 10 months, in May of 1993, Fritzl took Lisa from Elisabeth. Allegedly, he claimed that the space wasn't big enough for all of them, so he had to take Lisa. Fritzl would set the stage of Elisabeth abandoning Lisa. Once again, he would force her to write a note and pretend that he found Lisa on the front porch. In the note, it would say something along the lines of that this was Elisabeth's child, but she couldn't take care of Lisa anymore. Part of the note read, "Dear parents, I am leaving you my little daughter, Lisa. Take care of my little girl. I breastfed her for around 6.5 months, and now she drinks her milk from the bottle. She is a good girl, and she eats everything else from the spoon." Police would be called and informed of this, but they would see no problem with it. Fritzl and Rosemary would eventually legally adopt her. Social services did visit the house and do a background check on them, but by this time the SA had been wiped from Fritzl's record. So, social services saw no issue. February 26, 1994, Elisabeth gave birth to a girl named Monica. In December of 1994, Fritzl would also take Monica upstairs and stage another scene. He would leave her in a stroller outside the house. This time, instead of a note, he recorded her voice. A call would come into the family home phone, and the recording would be played, seeming like Elisabeth was calling them. Rosemary thought this was weird because the phone number that they had wasn't listed. The only way she would have known the number is if someone told her. She did report the number to the police, but nothing came of it. But yet again, no one really questioned anything. They would adopt Monica and take care of her just like they did with Lisa. April 28, 1996, Elisabeth would give birth to 2 twin boys. One of them she named Michael, and the other Alexander. When Michael was born, he was weak and had trouble breathing. Elisabeth would beg Fritzl to take him to the hospital, but he never did. He would say, "What will be, will be." 3 days later, Michael died in Elisabeth's arms. Fritzl would come in, take Michael from her arms, and he claimed he burned Michael's body in an incinerator and secretly spread his ashes on the garden in the backyard. 15 months after Alexander, the other twin, was born, Fritzl would bring him upstairs just like the other 2 kids in 1997. He would make up another bullshit lie and say he found him, and Elisabeth dropped off yet another baby. At this point, everyone was just shocked and confused, wondering how many kids Elisabeth was going to drop off there. But yet again, no one questioned anything. Something was left again, but I don't know if it was a note or a recording this time. December 16th, 2002, Fritzl at the age of 67 and Elisabeth at the age of 36 had her last child. It was a baby boy named Felix. This time, Felix would stay in the basement with the rest of them. So you have Elisabeth, Kirsten, Stefan, and Felix living in captivity in the basement, while Lisa, Monica, and Alexander lived upstairs and grew up normally. They saw Fritzl and Rosemary more as their parents rather than their grandparents. They attended school, played instruments, and spent the weekend going into town, all the while having no idea their mother and siblings lived underneath them. I feel like I have to say that the kids that were living upstairs, none of it is their fault or anything.
Right.
And I'm not blaming them. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying how they lived versus how the other kids lived. Elisabeth would do her best to teach the kids what she could, but even her education started fading away throughout the years. Their only idea of what the outside world looked like came from Elisabeth and what they saw on TV. All of them were pale, hunched over, and had been developmentally delayed. A lot of the times they communicated in grunts, growls, and sing-song manner, only knowing a select vocabulary. These children had never seen sunlight, never seen grass, and didn't even know what the sky looked like. Sometime after 1993, Elisabeth would beg and plead Fritzl to make the living space bigger. Eventually, he would agree to it. However, he would force all of them to dig it out with their bare hands. The 380 square footage would become just under 600 square footage. At the highest point, the ceiling only reached 5 feet and 6 inches high. This would cause the hunching seen in the kids later on. I am assuming around this time, Fritzl would give Elisabeth like the hot plate and maybe the TV and the other things. And he would also install a washing machine. When they did something Fritzl didn't like, or if he was just in a bad mood, he would punish them. He was physically abusive to all of them. A lot of the time, he would be a sweet, nice person and actually act like a family, while the other side would be physically, emotionally, and psychologically abusive to all of them. If that wasn't enough, he would completely shut off their power, leaving them in complete darkness and silence. When he did shut off the power, it could be days or weeks before he would turn it back on. When they did have food in the fridge and freezer, it would spoil and leak all over the floor. Elisabeth was left with cleaning it up the best she could in the darkness. With the food spoiling, it only made it worse. They already never had enough food for all of them to eat. He would only make sure to give them just enough food for them to survive. Elisabeth would try her best to make the place look more homey. She painted the tiles in the bathroom with sea creatures like turtles and octopus. There were also multiple kids' drawings hanging up on the walls. When police would later inspect the basement, they would say that they could only spend a short amount of time in there. The ventilation and oxygen was so poor and stuffy, it was hard to breathe. This would cause the kids and Elisabeth to have very poor health. With the lack of sunlight, all of them had severe vitamin D deficiency. They were all prone to illness with their lack of hygiene and health. Fritzl would bring medication, but those can only do so much for certain sicknesses. Some sicknesses that are normal for us could be life-threatening for them. Fritzl would use the excuse of working in the basement workshop, doing technical drawings or private projects in his absence. He said he didn't want to be disturbed, and no one was allowed in the basement. Right there, that's fucking red flag.
Right.
When tenants and other family members claimed to hear weird noises, he would just blame it on faulty pipes and the water heater acting up. They would just go along with it. Some nights, Fritzl would spend the whole night in the basement with them. He would also force Elisabeth to watch and then act out violent porn scenes. To make them think about never escaping, he would make up lies, telling them if they opened the door, they would get electrocuted, or poisonous gas would come out of the chambers and kill them. Fritzl would also use their relationships against each other, threatening Elisabeth if she didn't do what he wanted, he would hurt the kids, and vice versa. For the next 24 years, no one would know about them besides their captor. Social services and police would come and go, never finding anything suspicious. April 19th, 2008 would be the turning point. Kirsten, who was 19 years old at this time, fell critically ill. Days prior, Elisabeth begged Fritzl to take her into the hospital. And on April 19th, he would. He would carry the unconscious Kirsten to his car and bring her into the hospital. However, before he left, Elisabeth would write a note telling doctors to help. I'm assuming Fritzl probably forced her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Making sure she didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Fritzl would yet again spin another story. He claimed he found Kirsten unconscious near their house with a note from their mother saying, "Please, please help her." Doctors were very concerned the moment they saw the state Kirsten's body was in. She was extremely pale, bleeding from her tongue, severely malnourished, and most of her teeth were rotting. In the note, it also explained Kirsten had taken aspirin for a headache, how she would go in and out of consciousness, and her body would convulse, which would explain the bleeding tongue. Doctors would figure out she was suffering from kidney failure, and the rest of her systems were shutting down. They would put her into an induced coma and would have ventilators breathing for her. Doctors would find Fritzl's story very suspicious. They would ask more questions, but he would continue telling the same story. That she was just dropped off by his daughter, and he brought her into the hospital. Fritzl wouldn't stay at the hospital. He would basically just drop off Kirsten and leave. April 21st, 2008, the police were notified of this issue. They would make a public appeal pleading with Elisabeth to come forward so they could know Kirsten's medical history. They didn't have any information on Kirsten other than what was written in the note. While Elisabeth was still locked in the basement, the news would come on. She would see the public appeal, and she'd have a sliver of hope. They were finally back on the news, and people finally were starting to question where she was. We don't know if it was because of the news, or the police, or if it was Elisabeth begging and pleading to see her daughter. But a week later, Fritzl would stage the return of his daughter. April 26, 2008, Fritzl told Rosemary that Elisabeth was leaving the cult and coming back home. That she would be returning with her 2 kids she raised while in the cult. Elisabeth, at the age of 42, would arrive at the hospital with 73-year-old Fritzl on April 26. Doctors would immediately call the police telling them she was at the hospital, and right from the start, separate Elisabeth and Fritzl. The police were shocked when she said she was only 42 years old because she was so pale. Her hair had turned almost all gray, making her look like she was in her 60s. In the beginning, Elisabeth would refuse to say anything. However, the police would threaten her with negligence of Kirsten. That they see how malnourished and severe her condition was, and they could charge her for neglecting her daughter. She would finally talk, but not until the police promised she would never have to see her father again. And when they did promise, for the next 2 hours, she would go on into horrible detail of everything that happened. On April 27th, 2008, police placed Fritzl under arrest. He wouldn't resist or fight back. He would also tell the police how to get into the basement. Everyone was shocked when this came out on the news. It took over all of the headlines. Elisabeth and her children were finally freed from the prison, and they were taken into medical care. Kirsten would eventually make a recovery. After spending time in the hospital getting looked after, all of them would be sent to a psychiatric clinic to be cared for. They were all surprisingly healthier than what doctors would expect living in the condition that they did. Not surprisingly, all of them had deep psychological trauma and some health issues, like rotting teeth and malnourishment. They had a hard time adjusting to sunlight and having open spaces. The first couple of months, they were all in complete seclusion while getting help from therapists and other doctors. November 13th, 2008, and an indictment against Fritzl was issued. He was charged with murder by negligence for the death of Michael, enslavement, rape, incest, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and coercion. The most serious charge being the murder by negligence that could potentially give him a life sentence. And the charges like enslavement being up to 20 years each. At first, Fritzl was claiming he did it all to protect Elisabeth, to protect her from the outside world and the cruelties out there, and that it was all consensual. Complete utter bullshit. However, there was just too much undeniable evidence against him. The prison, the DNA, and the letters and recordings. Fritzl said, "I'm only being portrayed as a monster, and not as someone who committed monstrous acts." Fucking same thing!
Exactly the same fucking thing. Piece of shit.
He would be forever known as the monster of Amsterdam. Trials would begin in March of 2009 in Skulten, Austria, which is in the lower part of Austria. Elisabeth provided detailed testimonies in a videotape from July of the previous year, so she did not have to attend any of the trials. While going into court, Fritzl would hide his face behind a blue 3-ring binder. News reporters would film him walking in. In the proceedings, the courtroom was cleared of all press except during the opening and closing of the trial. Fritzl pleaded guilty to all counts besides murder and grievous assault. The second day of trial, March 17th, the jury sat through 11 hours of testimony tapes, only being able to watch them in sections of about 2 hours before needing a break. Elisabeth would secretly disguise herself in a wig and glasses and attend trial on the second day. She sat in the gallery, and at one point, Fritzl's lawyer said he saw him go pale and his body began to tremble. To him, it looked like he recognized someone sitting in the courtroom. We can only assume that he saw Elisabeth, in disguise, sitting in that courtroom. That takes some fucking balls.
Uh-huh.
The next day, March 18th, he pled guilty on all counts, claiming he couldn't deny what he had done anymore. The guilt was too much. Oh my God, I want to punch his defense attorney in the face too. His defense attorney would argue that he wasn't a monster, that he tried to take care of his second family the best he could.
His second family? You mean the family that he started by sexually assaulting his daughter?
Yeah. Even saying that he went as far as to bring a Christmas tree down for them one year.
Because that makes up for everything.
Yeah. He also treated the kids he took upstairs with kindness and care. Fucking complete bullshit. Chief Prosecutor Christine Burkheiser would tell the whole truth of the story. She would go up to the courtroom door and mark a spot that showed how tall the ceilings actually were in the basement. She would also pass around a box full of things that were found in the basement, like toys and stuff like that. Jurors would flinch from the smell of the items in the box. She would go on to explain the living conditions and what it was like in that basement. Christine pressed for a life sentence in a psychiatric facility, saying he was a danger to society. Harold, Elizabeth's brother, would testify in court, confirming the abuse that went on at home before and after Elizabeth went missing. Rosemary and all of the other children would not testify. March 19, 2009, Joseph Fritzl was found guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years. He was sentenced to the Gardstein Abbey to serve out his sentence, which is a psychiatric detention prison. As of right now, he is still in prison. But it was said in a source that he moved to a regular prison. He also changed his name to Joseph Mayroth. And this is believed to be because other inmates were giving him problems.
Oh, poor baby.
Yeah. It is also mentioned that he is suffering from dementia. And he's frail and old. Basically, he gets to forget what he's done while others don't. As of this episode, he is currently 90 years old. It has been 15 years. His lawyer said in February of this year, "We will start an action in March and call for parole. If the court rejects it, we will appeal. And given his condition, I believe he will be released by next year." I hope the fuck not.
Yeah.
A journalist who interviewed Fritzl said, he kept saying, "Just look into cellars of other people. You might find other families and other girls down there." He doesn't believe he's done anything wrong at all. He thinks it's failure of justice, and he's been wrongly locked up. Fritzl believes that if he gets out, there's going to be a fanfare of people excited about his release. I think it's the exact opposite.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing he regrets is the fact that this ruined his life. Elizabeth and all of her children, the ones that were upstairs and the ones that were in the basement, all went through therapy. And I'm sure they're still in therapy. In the beginning, the upstairs and downstairs children took a while to understand each other. While one side was learning about the world and trying to get used to open spaces, the other side was dealing with survivor guilt and remorse for not knowing. Slowly, I believe they're still learning to come together.
Oh.
Rosemary and Elizabeth tried to stay together in the beginning, but they would eventually have problems trying to work it out. Again, the same type of issue the kids were having. Sometime in 2009, they all would get new identities and move away. The only information on them now is that they moved to a town called Village X. Village X being a code name. We do know they are slowly getting better. Color is coming back to Elizabeth's hair. She learned to drive and loves shopping trips. Rosemary's sister, Christine, said, Elizabeth likes to go shopping a lot. She couldn't do that while she was locked in that cellar for those 24 years. She loves jeans with glitter pockets, and she has passed her driving test without difficulty. Now she's looking for a car. The kids are all going to school and working hard. Felix, the smallest one, has got a PlayStation. It is also mentioned that when released from the cellar, Felix would just sit on the ground outside, playing and petting the grass. At the time of their freedom, I believe Felix was 5 years old. Many people showed their love and support to Elizabeth and her family. They responded by making a poster. It said, "We, the whole family, would like to take the opportunity to thank all of you for the sympathy at our fate. Your compassion is helping us greatly to overcome these difficult times." In the new town they moved to, all of the locals have been keeping their location a secret. They are also under CCTV and have security guards protecting them. It is rumored that Elizabeth did find someone to be with and that he treats her well. Now, I have a couple mentionings and I have questions, and I'm sure you have things that you want to say too.
Yeah. A book of sorts.
Yeah. It is said that the reason why Fritzl took certain kids upstairs was maybe because they were the loud ones, the ones that cried a lot, and he didn't want to get caught.
Yeah, that's one of the things I had was how did Fuckface choose which kids went upstairs?
Yeah, this is just a speculation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 100%.
Right.
Another thing that was rumored was that he said he was planning on releasing them soon. But before he could, Kirsten got sick. He didn't really give a reason why, but it could have been because he was getting up there in age, and so was Elizabeth.
I don't believe that.
Yeah. It said that it was a possibility she already had a note written about her coming back and leaving the cult. The cult.
Yeah.
At one point, Fritzl said something along the lines of not having sex with Rosemary anymore because she was getting old and fat.
So you're going to sexually assault your daughter?
Yep.
And how many other children did he sexually assault?
Yep. When he got married to Rosemary, his mother moved in with him. It is said that since he was bigger and stronger now, he would turn around and start abusing his mother. At one point, it was rumored that he locked her in the attic, locking the door on the outside and boarding up the windows. He would keep her up there until she eventually died in 1980. And it said that her body was fully decomposed by the time
Oh my God.
they actually confirmed her death.
So did they not confirm her death until...
It was confirmed in 1980, so I don't know exactly how long she had been dead or what. I don't...
And they didn't think at that time to what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, I don't know.
What the...
Yeah. I don't know if he staged her body in a certain way or something, but...
And at that point, he hadn't yet imprisoned his daughter, right?
No. That was in 84 that he imprisoned her. So he got tired of imprisoning his mother, so he decided to imprison his 18-year-old daughter. One of the big fucking questions is, how do you not suspect anything?
Bingo. That's literally my biggest paragraph is exactly that.
The fucking noise.
Mm-hmm.
Food going missing. What about her belongings? If she really ran away, wouldn't she take her belongings with her? Did he get rid of those belongings? Did he give them to her down in the cellar?
Yeah. There were so many times in the story, in the case, that everyone was like, well, that's odd, but, we're not going to question it.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's fine.
Everybody knew he was an abusive piece of shit, and not a single one was like, okay, well, maybe.
The neighbors and the police say they didn't know. They thought he was just a strict family man.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, social services, wouldn't they check the whole house? Or no?
They should. And even if there's a locked room.
Especially if it's mentioned that no one's allowed in the fucking basement.
Yeah, wouldn't that be tough shit? I'm going down there.
Especially after he claims that he made it for a fallout shelter.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be a place where people can go?
Right. Yeah.
And I do want to mention that the 8 doors, he would basically almost hide them so that he would put a shelf in front of a door or a bookcase or something to where you wouldn't suspect. That's why he had to tell police how to get in there.
What the fuck?
That's what I'm saying, the whole fucking...
Yeah.
Research, the typing.
Yeah.
This case is so fucking fucked up.
Yeah. And all the noise, not to mention the pool. So just out of the blue,
I'm gonna make a pool.
His wife doesn't question,
No.
Nothing,
The only thing I can think of is she's scared for her life, but...
True. I mean, she was abused as well, and I just...
Yeah, and the fact that he could be getting out.
Yeah.
He's 90 years old, but he still should be in prison.
100% agree.
And I personally didn't agree with him being in a psychiatric facility.
Yeah.
He should get the same old prison.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and poor guy, he's getting mistreated in prison. I don't give a fuck.
No, I hope he's getting mistreated.
Yeah.
Fucking piece of shit.
Yeah.
If you are interested, there is a movie based on these events. It is called Girl in the Basement. It is dramatized and the names and places are different. But it's based on the true story.
Let's say, damn, I don't know how much dramatized it's going to need because this is...
Yeah. Well, I think in the movie, the room is just there's just one door, and then in this room, it's just cement walls, cement ground, and then there's a toilet in the corner.
Mm.
So I think it's dramatized like kind of that way.
I gotcha.
But that's shitty either way.
Yeah. I wrote down something about the kiddos, like the mental shit that they are going through, or that they have gone through and are going through, because I don't remember his name, Fuckface, did he...
Fritzl.
Yeah, Fritzl. Did Fritzl say to the kids, like, oh, your mom didn't want you, so, you know, we're your parents now? Like, did he...
Yeah, I'm
because
pretty
there was
sure he...
so much psychological shit that the kids went through. So then when they find out that actually my mom was underground this whole time and she did want us, but...
And we have other siblings,
yeah,
and...
my dad, grandpa...
Yeah.
is...
Finding out that your grandpa is your actual father.
Yeah. Yeah. Those poor kids. I mean...
Yes.
And I mean all of them. I mean Elisabeth and her siblings and her children. Like,
Yeah, it's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
At the hospital, they did do DNA tests with every single children, and all of them were confirmed to be... He was confirmed to be the father.
That is unfortunate.
Yeah. And to me, his act is poor me, poor me.
Mm-hmm.
I may have done bad things, but that doesn't make me a bad person.
Yeah, I wrote down part of the quote where he said, failure of justice. Yeah, there actually was a huge failure of justice on those kids and grandkids, which is so, like, on all the children, there was a failure of justice. Not on that piece of shit, but on all the kids that, well, he's just a strict dad. Yeah, there's a difference between being strict and...
Abusive.
I'm sorry. I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
There is a difference. And the whole, what happens behind closed doors, fucking blow those doors open. Like, I don't... Absolutely not.
It's fucking ridiculous.
I think that people were probably just intimidated by him and didn't want to say anything. For the social workers coming into the house, the police officers coming into the house, neighbors, kids at school, no one saw a damn thing. Yeah. Except they would question things and then just, whatever.
No one saw him put a baby on the front porch.
Yeah.
No one saw him put a baby in a stroller.
Yeah.
No one saw him carrying up Kirsten from the basement and putting her in the car.
Yeah.
You're telling me no one saw or heard anything?
Yeah.
Fucking bullshit. And
everyone knew that he could be a dickhead and just put it off as, well, he was just a stern dad. I don't... Yeah. I don't buy it. Mm-hmm. Like, in hindsight, is this one of those things, like, in hindsight, where people are, oh, well, actually, that kind of makes sense. Like, that actually checks out. Like, he probably, now that I'm putting two and two together, like, that makes sense that he did that. Why the fuck didn't you say something?
Yeah. At the bottom, there is 3 pictures. I didn't know if you looked at those or not.
No, I haven't looked at anything yet. I was too busy trying not to cry from the...
Yeah.
How the fuck were the rats getting in?
I don't know.
Was it just, like, dirt ceiling? Like, I don't
know if he completely sealed off everything or not. I don't know how they were forced to dig dirt. I don't know if there was, like, already, like, if they had to break down a wall. If they... Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't find, like, full images of everything. And honestly, I don't know if I could.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to see them if there was, honestly.
Yeah. Like, the hallway kind of looks like it's not even, like, cement. It looks like it's, like, cardboard.
Yeah, and it looks like it's not even big enough. Like, it looks like they would have had to walk sideways.
Yeah. The pictures that we are talking about, we are going to post in our Instagram. we are not posting any photos of the victims because they are still alive and they have their name changed and they live elsewhere, and I don't want to even do that because that's not what they want.
Right.
And I think the only picture of Elisabeth is taken when she was 16, I believe. It's just the biggest question is, how did no one know?
Mm-hmm.
For fucking 24 years.
Yeah.
And I believe Stefan, he was 5'8", so, and the ceiling was 5'6", so he had to hunch over constantly. I don't know how tall the rest of the family was. But we only have this one case today because it is a long ass bitch. And there's just so much that I can't even think about another case right now.
Right.
Our next episode will have probably 2 cases. But this case was one on its own.
Mm-hmm. Our hearts go out to the victims in this case and all individuals affected. With that is all we have for today. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions or comments, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram at Girls Gone Curious Podcast. Until next time.